Hello, happy Thursday. It's Hank and Melissa here with another just talk on Peruvian nature mysticism around the Qatar tradition of cross cultural shamanism. So, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the origins, how we found the tradition, but most importantly, if you've been watching us, answering any questions you might have of things that we've talked about, because really you lead the conversation. So, that's what we're talking about today while we wait a little bit for people to actually show up.
Yeah, I was going to say questions and comments are always fun and welcome.
Yeah. Let me go make this public on my page because I always forget that. And if you're watching this on a replay, please take a moment and share the video to someone you feel might, be interested in the tradition or learning about tools that would help with inner work and improving the quality of life and all that, because that's what this program really is about. When you cut it down, it's not about being a healer or all these other things. It's about developing your relationship with the unseen world and having more ease in your life, more conscious choice in your life, and eliminating the things from your past that might be holding you back. And that's what it does. Good morning, Tony. And I don't know how to say this one, so I'll just put this one up. Happy holidays. Yay.
Hippie Sean. Hello, hello. Yeah, so while we wait for more friends to join, if you're already in, hey, Chair, feel free to ask questions, on the topic. And I think this might be more of today, how we found the tradition. This is more of Hank's story because, Hank, you kind of brought it to me. So I found it through you. Hey, Kathy. So, and if anything, I was a little more like, meh, it's another class.
No, that's how, and we've talked about this before, but like the truth was that the topic that I had planned, I don't have my chumpy stones with me. We're going to talk about chumpy stones and the belts and the tradition. But as kind of leading into next week, where we will have that as a topic, I thought, why not discuss how we found it? And I'm sure all the students have different things that they found. But my story for it is I didn't even know it existed, and I was going to school for mediumship and healing prophecy work at Lilydale, which is in New York State, and it's like a whole community of just spiritualists, and they had this 2-year program for becoming an ordained minister, spiritualist minister, and learning all kinds of healing techniques and mediumship development. And my roommate gifted me this set of stones from Peru because Spirit told him to. And I'm like, what do you do with them? He's like, I have no idea. What are they called? He didn't know they were called chumpy stones. And then I started Googling. And I found this little book called Inka Mountain Magic, written by Don Zane Curfman. And there's a chapter in there called Chumpy Stones, or Chumpy belts, perhaps. And so I reached out to Zane and I said, hey, brother. Well, I didn't call him brother yet. Hey, dude, like, how do you use these things? And he said it's part of an apprenticeship. And that led me to, well, how many people do we need for that? So many people. How many weekends? And then I approached Melissa, who had an amazing Space Force store, and said, I would love to host this program. But in order to even get enough people interested to make that level of commitment, we started hosting Zane for 1-day, 2-day workshops. And I think we started that in 2016. And then our first apprenticeship was 2 years before the first apprenticeship. So either 2014 or 2016 that we had started hosting Zane and then had our first apprenticeship. And then we've been having them pretty much every year since for different things. And that's how we found the tradition.
Yeah. So literally you brought it to me and it's like, hey, can we host this class, over on the side of your store in this empty space? And I'm like, sure. And one of the perks, right?
2014, that must be Zane. Telling me when it was.
He's always the mysterious Facebook user. One of the perks of owning the space and everything, and if I have to be there after hours and everything anyway for the class and everything, I just kind of, I partake. And, at first I was like, it's a class. It's a thing, right? Go in with an open mind, but I was not excited about it as Hank was. But by the end of the first weekend and definitely the second, like I was all in, so Hank brought it to me, but I was skeptical, so I'm like, oh, here's a healing modality. Here's another class. Here's another thing. But changed my mind rather quickly. And it doesn't work now because I have had more, surgeries on my hands. But at the time, and I think it was that first weekend, we came back from our field trip day and everything, and Zane was giving everybody a piece of a certain type of stone as like the welcoming in and the first sacred piece that's going to end up being in your working tradition. And while I'm just kind of standing there, he's got his eyes closed, so he's just stepping person to person and just kind of feeling and putting stones in hands. And when he laid it down, I remember I looked at it, and the outline of the stone fit right inside of a scar piece that I had on my hand. And I was like, oh, there's no way.
I don't know if I ever knew that part about your story.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
And then was it the second or third weekend we went up? We were on one of the cliffs, and it was into work. So maybe second, because I think first weekend we were out at the island. We're up on these cliffs, and so you're standing there connecting with into the sun and trying not to like misstep and like fall into some crevices. And it was cloudy, dreary. It's Ohio. It's spring. There's no sun, right? So blah. And we're standing there, and Zane's like, oh, we're going to call in the sun and the Father, Son, and feel him. And like, how does that resonate for you? How does this feel? Blah, blah, blah. So we're all standing there, right? And everybody's got their eyes closed. I'm that student. I've got one eye closed and one eye open because I'm watching what the teacher does and like what's going on and how are people reacting. And he starts doing his thing, and I'll be damned if clouds didn't part and here comes the sun. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm in. I'm all in now.
And to give folks a context, the way that that Zane has worked in the past, and next year it's going to be a little different. It'll be a hybrid. But we had 7 in-person weekends, and we'll have 7 in-person weekends this next time. But each weekend it was kind of divided where we have like opening a space, a field trip day, and then kind of teachings around the mesa. Always adaptable based on what is needed in the moment. But that's how the weekends were built. So we had kind of a rhythm to it. And so, like Melissa said, the first week we went out to Putin Bay, and we went into the cave underneath the winery and did work in that cave. And we built despachos, which are like offerings. And then we went to like places like not whip sludges. Was it whips? Maybe it's whip sludges. And did work on the stones and in the field. And we've gone to lakes and all these different things. Because the idea in this tradition is you go where the energy is naturally present. You go to where the energies are present, and you're doing the initiatory work. So you're drinking in all those levels of energy that are inherently present in different sites, and kind of activating those within your field to be able to better work with it. And the real key to start developing the relationships with the spirits, with the winds, with the earth, with the nature beings and all that. And that's really the point of all the work, because through that relationship, you build, everything else that you do within the tradition. The relationship comes first, really.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, guys, feel free to ask questions. Like, even if it's how to get started, or you have an interest and you want some clarification, if you want more clarification for us. Because like I said, I was more skeptical going in. Hank was full force. So
I knew already.
Yeah. So if you want to ask either one of us questions about, how we got started and the difference of then and now, it's a great time to ask.
Yeah. And next week we'll go over the chumpy belts and the chumpy stones and talk a little bit about what I learned about finally, what prompted me to seek out Zane to learn about these little stones. The second part of that story, which is kind of fun to tell, is initially my friend Dave had only gifted me 7 stones. But he had a set of 10. And when I finally learned everything, I called him up and said, I want to gift you a belting ceremony and show you what you helped me to learn. And when he came, he admitted that he had bought those stones for himself. He didn't get them for me as a present. And he had got each stone from a different village. So they're actually from different villages, different mountains, if you will, from Peru. But they look like they were carved by the same artist, or they were all together, but they were all separated. And he admitted that Spirit just told him, give them to Hank. And he was angry. He's like, no, I went to Peru with Ken Harsh and I traveled and got all these things. And here he's being told to give them to me, but he listened to Spirit. And he gave me the 7 stones. And that night when I gifted him that, he brought the other 3 stones that were part of that original set and then told me the rest of it, because he had never told me that hadn't actually got them for me. He told me, yeah, I got you a present, but but it really wasn't. It was for himself, but he listened to spirit. He went to Peru to get those for me. He bought 2 sets. He kept the other set. So
He's like, I might listen, but I'm keeping
he
one.
had like ancient ones. He had like this old asteroid set. That's the set he kept, and he bought that one together. So yeah.
Right. And I mean, and that kind of makes it even more special in a way that they're all from different places, and like the thoughts and the work that went into those.
Especially learning later when you do dispatches how you're calling in different mountains and different things, like the fact that they were from different places, I now find to be very significant. And I never asked him. I wonder if he wrote it down, like which stone came from where. I should reach out and just see. That would be kind of interesting to find out. I think we have, Zane asked a question and we had Tony ask a question. They're kind of, well, how do you both view the tradition then, and how do you view it now? I might have to think about that one for a little bit.
I know. And I'm like, do I view it differently? Do I, I would have to say that I still have an awe of the tradition then and now. Maybe what parts awe me are different now than then, because, when something is new and you get a grasp and you have an understanding, I don't want to say some of that fascination goes away, but it becomes more of a clear understanding, and you have, a working ability with it. And then as you're moving along, something new comes up, something new to learn. And then that whole like, oh, there's this too. So, I don't know if I would view it differently. I would think maybe in the very, very beginning, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but I was like, this is all great and all, but is this usable? And that is one thing I will say now, like this is one of the very few traditions or things that I've learned that it is easily used in everyday practice for myself and how I approach, things in life. Whether or not I always remember to do it, and then that's the other thing. That's the human side coming in, right? Like, oh shit, I could have done that. Okay. Note for self for later.
I have a lot of hindsight, things like that too. Like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. But in the moment, that's the thing. Like you learn those things that do trigger or put you into a place where you're reacting. And that happens less and less frequency, but it still happens. And then you can look back and look at what you could have done differently. And for myself, I believe that the tradition continues to deepen and deepen. And there comes a point where, like before, I was just learning. And for my very first Pachamama, singing Pachamama, because how we open up our space, I just had this wave come over me, and I just knew this is where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be learning and incorporating in my life. And it's just expanded from there. So it started as this little point where there was a single point of interest to learn a single thing, so I could use a couple rocks that someone gave me, and it turned into this gift of a way to be in the world. Because a lot of the things that you're learning, but as you start really incorporating them into your life, some of the things just become part of you. It's not like I have to sit there and think about something. Like you just kind of, you learn how to dance with the universe a bit, if I had to put it in a way. And that dance just gets more intricate. And then there's layers and layers of meaning. There's been times where I've gotten an inspiration from spirit, and like, oh, he taught this, and then I have this idea to do it a little bit differently. And then I go to Zane, and he's like, oh, brother, that's actually an advanced teaching. I've never taught that before. I'm just like, whoa. So like, it gives you confidence that as you're building these relationships with the spirits and things, that you start getting confidence in your intuition and things. And that's what really changed. Coming in, you might have had like 10% confidence in working with that. And as time goes on, it's the opposite. I don't know how I want to say it, but you just become way more empowered by the things. It's not something you're using, it's something you start being. And I think that kind of blends in what we both said. How has it changed your lives? I mean, that's kind of like what I just spoke to too. It's just becomes part of you, and it enriches everything in ways that I think it's kind of hard to put words to.
Yeah, you have a new way of looking at things and reactions and events, and a lot about you, really, you and how you interact, how you react or respond. So, there's the change that way. And I will argue that's a change for the better because you're more in control of yourself, a mastery of yourself. Um, so, yeah.
Good
If
question.
anybody's interested in taking the apprenticeship, if you have questions about how it might help you in certain situations or fitting it into a busy lifestyle, right? Because everybody's busy.
Hmm.
Some days it feels busier than others. But if you have questions about just daily life to life on this, feel free to ask. Let's see. I am trying to figure out where the page went on our website.
Well, I have posted one in the description that I had up, but you got a landing page up now finally too?
It was up last week, and now that I want to put the link up, it is not there.
Well, there is a link in the video description, and then once Melissa finds her link, she's going to post her link too. But they lead you to the same place. Just one is through my site, one is through Melissa's site, where you can find information about the program. But in a nutshell, starting in April for the in-person classes, going 7 months, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, weekends, and then augmented with online content in between. So that we never had before like this, where we had the in-person plus, well, I guess we did. With the first year of COVID, when we were supposed to be in person, we had to go online, we shifted and we did a lot of things differently. That's what really birthed this entire hybrid process now, where we have like the 7 in-person weekends and the online content.
Mm-hmm.
And here Zane was saying, there is no blind faith in our tradition. It is based on your experience, not on a belief. And Zane will often say, I don't need your belief. All I need is the benefit of your doubt. And if you practice the things that he tells you based on your own experience, you'll be on your way.
Let's see.
Now there's all kinds of comments. I'll let you pick what you want to put up. Oh, you're still looking for your link, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's okay. I can multitask. Lee says, like, how do you fit in with a busy lifestyle? I've completed the wheel, but it's hard to get a routine down to grow. So there's a lot of practice and methods in this tradition that you don't need a whole bunch of like tools and toys and things to do. So even just, the kids come home, they've had a bad day, they're a little anxious, or like in the case of my son, when he was doing Taekwondo competitions, he would be really nervous because anxiety through the roof, right? And so sometimes he'd be like, can I borrow your pillow? Meaning my little Kintu. But he would come over and he'd be like, can you do your thing? And so that, just draining that anxiety, that heaviness, and, didn't need the pillow. No, but it made him feel better. So there's certain techniques and stuff that you will learn that helps go through. The great thing about the Mesa is there's really no set day that you have to do anything. I choose to leave mine up all the time as more of a remembrance to me of the work that is there, of the things to learn and spending that time. So it's more of a for me to do. But I think there's been people in the class who never really set it up all the time unless they're going to actively do something for themselves or friend, family member. But it's not like on Mondays you have to this, Tuesday evenings you have to that, Wednesday you get the day off, Thursday you have to do. Like there's not this set routine. It's just, you have methods and tools that you can use through your everyday life, as needed. And then if you choose and want to have a setup for yourself, you can. And I choose to remind me of it. So, and it sits in my living room. So even if I'm sitting there watching a true crime doc, like it's like 10 feet from me, and sometimes it's nagging, like you haven't sat here for a few days. You need to, spend that time.
And I would say too that through the apprenticeship, like he may give exercises where you're working with the different nature spirits every day, the wind, the sun, the earth, and you may start by doing that for a period of time. But at the end of the day, this is all based on intention and perception, where you intend one thing, then you have perception of it. So like if you move your hand from left to right, like your intention moved the hand. You're not going move, 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 move. That's not taking that much mental bandwidth. It's just like you move it. So you have your intention to connect with the sun, your perception of connecting with the sun, and off and on like that. So it's really quick. Like you might anchor it a little bit in the beginning, but the actual practice itself, the tools that you learn, are very quick to use, and it's not like you have to sit there like an hour Reiki treatment. You're sitting there, it's like Simon Chakwi, Father's Ring, come. And you're doing things. I just feel it's a lot rapid, I guess, would be my description of it.
I mean, you will. Right. I mean, Zane always teaches, and every year that we do the apprenticeship, it's always slightly different based on the students. And there's been some years where we've learned some meditations, some techniques that were longer, right? To where maybe as a busy parent, you're like, I do not have time to sit here for 45 minutes doing breath work because kids are out of school at 3:15. I've got to throw food into their stomach, and we've got to be out the door by 4:30 for soccer practice, so use that if and when, you choose to, but there's other things that you can do. That aren't 45 minutes, that aren't an hour, that aren't things that literally as you're walking them into class, you can be shifting energy, and they don't even need to know that you're doing it because you're just doing it. So
and here's a good point from Zane. He wrote, the laboratory is your life. It's about enriching your life, not taking away from it. And one thing I will say, like from the first year, everything that we learned, I was incorporating. Like when I was at I don't even know when. I don't remember time frames. I think I was done with the bank. I might have been an equity trust. I don't. But everywhere in my regular life, if I could use a tool, I was using, and it wasn't like I just set aside time to practice. I practiced like on the job. Like how Zane says, your laboratory is your life. You use it throughout your life as you need things. I wouldn't even say you have to necessarily set aside time for certain things. You can incorporate things as you go. But at the beginning, there was times where you would go out every morning and just connect with things. But it was a really quick process. Maybe encouraged to be longer in the beginning to anchor it, but it was really quick. And do you have a favorite tool or practice within the tradition? Is a question that Tony asked. My bell. I like my bell a lot.
You like noisemakers.
I do like noisemakers, but the bell is especially good because it's used for a lot of things. But I don't know. I would say my little bell, runner up is a rattle.
I don't know if I have a favorite tool. I will say when I had my mesa at the store and it was kind of off to the side, off the sales floor, kind of like you had to walk around this place to get to it. So it wasn't like you accidentally found yourself over there, which I always thought was interesting when people would end up over there. Everybody always wanted my Pachamama stone. So I think that's a popular thing. But I think for myself, it would be more of a method. And I'm the type of person, I'm kind of a visual like movie playing. And so when there's something that needs to be addressed, that's not just, okay, shifting of energy and like pulling in and channeling and like it requires, sitting down at the mesa. It's almost like I shrink myself and put myself in the whole situation inside. And so, little stones become big mountains, and I'm a little person standing on there and I'm addressing it while standing on there and, bringing that person in with me. So, I forget what movie it was, but it was like not Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but like they would shrink down. And so it's kind of like a spiritual version of doing that and like going, okay, if this is my healing table, we're getting in it. And, so that's my favorite way of using it. So I wouldn't say any one tool on it, like the whole thing almost becomes like a healing playground. And I take myself and or whoever, I'm working with down into it and go do the work that way.
And my most used tool is my mesa.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Hey, I don't know if you did this.
What's
I
that?
did it, and I did this and a couple other students, and I don't know if you did, but like as we were going through and getting the end and we had kind of made our little bundle, I carried that thing around with me everywhere.
I do. I have it with me almost all the time. It's like a teddy bear. It's like a little pillow. Like Rune used to say, "Can I have your pillow?" It's like,
Yeah.
except it's heavy. You could knock someone out with it, maybe. So I don't know how comfortable it is to sleep as a pillow. But that is my most used. This is a Kintu Misha, and this is one. There's different Mishas in this tradition, and some of them you open, some of you don't. This one I don't open. There's also the Humpback Misha, it's the healer's Misha. But this is just my little bundle, the visualization or the concept of the me that doesn't need healing, in a sense. That if I'm having a bad day, my mace is not. And it can still do the work even if I'm having a bad day. So it's a really good tool. And someone asked to hear the bell. I think I have it, but Melissa might be very annoyed.
I can mute my whole laptop.
I'm pretty sure I have it. It might be in my bag in the car though, and if that's the case, I'm not gonna, because I didn't bring my stuff in for the healing day yet. So, and I like these bells so much, I bought a whole bunch of them. So like I have these all throughout the house on little places, but it's not so bad, right? You like it, Melissa? I can get you one too. But I like it. It's copper or brass with a little wooden striker, and I gave Zane one of these too. It's a cool little bell. It has a great sound. So there's my little bell. See, that's the bag that I carry with me all the time, where I have other ones that I bring just when I do stuff at the store. So that's my keeper bag.
And this is why I keep him on the other side of the wall.
Yeah. See, it's lovely. Don't mind, Melissa, Hank. I'm starting to build people who also like noise. It's great. Zane asked a question: how do you talk to a stone? And Zane loves the little bells. Yes. And Zane, there's a link you can click in the little description to let StreamYard let us know who you are, so we could actually see your cool little profile picture if you feel so inclined. You don't have to, but you could if you wanted to. So when we got our stones, because there's different methods where you might go find your stones. The most I don't want to say highest, but one of the coolest ways is when nature gives you the stone. But when you find a stone, or when nature gives you a stone, you kind of sit and you hold it in one hand, and you're letting the stone tell you its story, and then you would put it in the other hand and you tell the stone your story. And it's not like you're actually telling the story, it's an energy exchange. So we have a word for that in this tradition. It's called Karpay, like an exchange of energy. And essentially you're doing a little Karpay with the stones and allowing it to tell you about it, and what its medicine gifts are is a really important part. Maybe what its name is and that type of thing. I do this a lot with my crystal skull work too. And then you would have it in the other hand and you tell it your story, or vice versa. I know it's supposed to be one way. I admit that sometimes I might do it the opposite way, but I do it whichever way I feel I'm supposed to do it in that moment, about which hand I'm supposed to say and which way I'm supposed to go with the data. Zane can tell me which way the right way is. Right way. And sometimes I break the rules and I put the stone up to my head, and I do that, and I just allow the information flow to go back and forth, or to the heart, or wherever I'm kind of led to put it.
I want to say, I think we only did this in the first apprenticeship that we did, where we were given the homework, right? And we had to ask our stones their names. And, before all of the remodel and whatnot, I had the mini version of my mesa set up, because we weren't done building the big elaborate thing, right? And so it was over on the other side of these little partitions. And anytime I got near to that side of the store, I'd hear these little chatterings and everything. And so like they were all already yelling, at me. And so it was kind of like one of those, like, I am at work, stop it. Like, we will have this conversation later in that, because I argue with everything. We will do this later in the day. And hey, Chris. So, and that's where, learning that, like, sometimes you can't say their names because it's a whole different, like, language, if you will. And so, trying to differentiate that and writing that down, because I'm like, I am not going to remember what that is. We're just going to call you Bob. Is that okay? Can I call you Bob, Little Rock? Because I can say that. Um, but I don't think we had to do that again.
No,
The other
but I
year.
was thinking about the skull that you have and how it was in my head. That's
Oh,
what I started talking. A totally separate story. The store came across an item to sell, which was this big lava rock skull, which ended up being a staple for the store. And as soon as she got it, this thing started, like, I just heard it in my head all the time. And it was its name. And then finally it became like a store mascot, and it calmed down once Melissa started giving him tequila. It stopped yelling at me in my head. So
yeah.
I think that was the beginning of me realizing that I was going to work with crystal skulls.
Yeah, still have him.
He's less ornery, I would say.
What?
I think he's less ornery than he used to be.
He is. Though he has made friends with certain practitioners and everything of the store. And sometimes he goes and visits them, because I'll be sitting there, in my office, and I'm like, you're not even there. Where are you? I'm like, you're off on vacation and you didn't invite me. Oh, now he's asking hard questions.
This is not a hard question.
I know. What is the benefit of an unbroken lineage within a living tradition? Does the lineage come to help you?
In a nutshell, these people where this tradition came from are way up in the mountains. It's like a 3-day hike just to get to a road to hitchhike to a hospital. If that doesn't work, they don't use it. And so this tradition, reason we say it's unbroken is the Caro, when the Spanish came, they're way up in the mountains. The Spanish couldn't go that high because of like altitude sickness and things. So like a portion of this, what this tradition really is, was kept kind of out of space-time, uninfluenced by the Spanish. And so you just had this original tradition from however long ago, cultivating itself based on what works. That's why they call it a living tradition. It's changing for what works, but a lot of these things were tried and true from way back. And so you have all of that, like it's here because it works. So it stood the test of time. And in this tradition, what happens is you learn to call in the ancestors of the tradition. So if you don't do something right, or slightly off or whatever, you have the power of the lineage of all those who came before, because we stand in the bones of our ancestors that kind of help polish it, I guess would be the way I would say it. You did the intention, you did the work, and then you have the collective of the lineage helping to polish the result. It would be my own word choice for that. So like it's hugely potent, in my opinion, because you got the stand of time, the collective, and you just now it's reemerged, which is the beautiful thing too. Like they had this time of Pachacuti where there's this big earthquake, and they recognize that it's the time for the rainbow tribe of man to come together and start sharing their knowledge, and the Caro have freely shared their knowledge with the children of the North. So it's this beautiful thing that you have all this information sharing, but to carry that, you have this one tradition that goes way back, that's the roots of it, and is helping to kind of polish this merging that we're having now. So that's how I would say that the benefit of the unbroken lineage, and that it does actually help you and us, humanity.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the short way of saying that is like you have a whole new list of ancestors, right, to call on and to do the working with. So, if you're doing ancestral work and you've got your bloodline, family lineage, or and this came up in a private conversation at the store, but somebody was like, the ancestors and bloodline, and what if you're adopted? Who's coming around then? so that was a fun, but I'm like, this is almost kind of like you've been adopted in by a whole new family in this tradition, and they
Right.
see and recognize that. So as you're doing this healing work, even if you don't know their names, the intent is there, and they're coming, and they're going to assist and aid you in that.
Yeah. And in addition to the ancestor work, another big, if you go back on our streams, there was one where I think we talked about the Pacarina and the Ituapu. Did we do one just for them? I think we did. Now I'm not sure, but I think there's an episode talking about the spirits of your birthplace. And you go through this process, this initiation, and you sort of elevate from using your parents. Well, your parents were the donation for your physical body, but your medicine body was held by the spirits of your birthplace. And you go through this whole thing to kind of start to heal the heaviness in the family line, get your ancestral gifts, and then start working with your godparents, the spirits of your birthplace, to really start stepping into your soul walk and elevating to your highest expression and all that. So you have the ancestors, but you also have these ancient mountains or ocean or lakes and things that are also here to help you, that you start to develop a relationship with them that are older than antiquity. And so there's a lot of great combinations of things that help you in this tradition.
Yeah, let's see.
Good questions. We should just like write all these down if we're ever like stalled for something, like, well, on this day Zane asked this, and so we can just re-ask these questions.
This is why we need to try and get Zane on. Well, I know he's busy on Thursdays, so like a special day, like come pick Zane's brain.
We just gotta ask him and see when he's available and do it. He's pretty free flowing like that, but he's really busy.
Right. Now, Hank, are you going to have part of your mesa at the store today? If somebody's local and they want to come see it?
I only have this Annabelle and Florida water that'll spit at you. And I have some sound things too. Like I have two sound bowls. There's a little pyramid here, so I do the sound, and then I have the mesa. Though I am going to be having a once a month clinic at the store. I just have to plan one. And on those days you can schedule, and it will be around the big mesa spread. And those ones, like in this tradition, like the actual healings used to be like you'd be standing. Like now we're like Americanized, and you lay down and you have a fluff and buff and all this stuff. But like you would just stand, and the healing would be very quick, and you would do like one thing, and then the person would go, maybe give them homework, and you might come back and that kind of thing. So there wasn't. It would be more of a traditional style clinic, where it would be like a 10 to 15 minutes at most.
Instead of a pharmacy walking clinic, it's the shaman walking clinic.
Somewhat, yeah. And sometimes you just go in their hut and you talk to them, and at the end, like you leave, and like you were just in their field, and the healing happened, and you don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. But like it's the faith, like they go to the shaman, they have that faith. Like there's kind of like from the Bible, your faith has healed you. And what I think happens in modern day world is we value our stories like crazy. And it's like, what do you mean? I have 40 years of crap that I put myself through. How can I go in 15 minutes and just be healed and all this? Like, you like to have value for your story. So you sometimes, like I say, sometimes a shaman is a showman doing a big elaborate type of thing, because you're almost outweighting in a way of that, but also getting the person to be empowered to do their actual own work, because the real work comes from looking at yourself and doing the efforts to make changes and things like that. And healing might give you clarity around that, but it's really about inspiring the person to actually take a look at themselves and know that they have the tools within themselves to actually do the changes.
It's almost like the the clients coming in and they've got the weight of these stories, right? They're wanting a shift. They want to unload the story, the weight of that story because they identified as that problem, right? For no matter how long or how big, because that's what they're coming for. So, you have to meet that weight, if not greater, for them to leave that, so they can leave and continue on, on that healing. Because honestly, like they know that that's a problem, or that's something that needs to be addressed. We shouldn't say problem, right? Because it's judgment. Judgy McJudgerson right here. It's a problem. And so they're wanting to do something about it. They don't know what, so they're coming to you. So But at the same time, it's what feels comfortable. They don't like what's going on, but they're used to it and they're comfortable enough that if they feel like that person that they're coming to isn't doing enough, they're going to keep that with them and they're going to leave. So, the showiness is to make them feel comfortable, to set that down. Like, you have done enough for me to leave that here and be able to leave and go do, hold that space and keep that energy and that work going. So you're way more showier than I am. That's what I'll tell. I'm like, you, Hank.
I go on my intuition. Well, there's one client, her, and I won't say the name, but I'll mention who it was after. But the first time I ever worked with them, like, I always get excited. Like, I'm going to be able to use my gongs and my things, all this stuff, and do all this stuff. And Spirit's like, no. Do the lightest possible flow of energy. And for an hour, I just sat and I just held hands almost in the same place and just ran the lightest flow of energy. And at the end, she thanked me. She's like, you're the first person I'm going to come back to, because usually when I go to a healer, they just hit me with everything they got. And I'm so sensitive and I can't handle it. And you gave me just what I could handle. So it's really about like following your intuition, like what's right for each client, because it's really different.
Yeah.
And what works for one person doesn't for the other. And yeah. So now Zane asked another hard question. You're just full of them today, Zane. He's pookly-eyeing stump the students here. No, what is the difference between energy healing and healing ways in this tradition?
Oh, they're similar yet different.
Well, and energy healing is such an umbrella word. Like, that's a really hard question to, I think I could speak to the healing ways of this tradition more effectively than energy healing, because energy healing with all the modalities, it's like a plethora of
energy healing is kind of become like that umbrella, like psychic.
Like shaman is really an umbrella too. That is one particular tradition from the Tungus tribe of Siberia, and like all native traditions are lumped under it now. What we're talking about today is the Paqo Kuna tradition of Peru. And I would say that everything in this tradition in some way is designed to help restore Aini, which is divine reciprocity. And all the things do different. So like whether it's getting rid of hucha, whether it's bringing in the light, whether it's shifting, getting something lost and bringing it, integrating it, it's all about restoring Aini. Or even when we build a despacho, that's a payment to like the earth for Pachamama Roimi, for example. And it's about giving thanks and staying in balance with the earth for all that she gives us. We're giving back. And so it's all about this divine reciprocity, I believe, is what everything from this tradition really does. And energy work is such an umbrella, whether you're talking like Reiki versus pranic healing versus Qigong versus what, like all those energy systems might work subtly differently. And I don't know enough about them all to speak to it.
Well, and I think
Reiki probably similar, God-guided life energy. It might be doing stuff too.
Well, I think in a way, maybe one example being, so like Reiki, you go in for Reiki and you're like, bad car accident, my back's never been the same, and this, that, and the other thing. And so, the perception, at least with Reiki, is you're kind of going in and it's healing body, right? It's helping the body heal. It's helping, which granted, a lot of people don't understand, like you have to hold the space and it's some mental stuff that's going on too for the client if they're willing to step there. But, it's body based, whereas this tradition, yes, there's physical things that are going to happen or can happen, but it's a lot of becoming self-aware. It's the owning it. It's the mental, emotional, healing and learning. And so whatever you're maybe storing in your body, if it is a case of, you're storing that injury instead of like letting it go, you quit owning the car wreck, right? Sure. Let it go. Kind of gives you yet a more in-depth way of having that healing instead of like, oh, you always have to come back and get Reiki every week or something. Not saying that that's wrong, but it's a different way of addressing it and kind of getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah. And Reiki nowadays is so broad because there's like there's thousands of types of Reiki, literally. And some of them are more like there's a plethora. I like that word today, apparently, plethora. There's just so many of them. It's like, it's hard to compare them nowadays. Of what
That's
the
one thing that I wish, like, there was some sort, but then again, who would be in charge? But I'm like, there's no governing body over Reiki and attunements and who can create what and who can do what and who can do
well,
it.
there's two governing bodies that disagree with each other at least.
Yeah.
So
So, this whole
two big
get
groups.
attuned over this phone app. Really? Really? And I'm like, I'm just gonna start creating and making up things. Right.
Let me be in charge.
We're gonna let Hippie Sean be in charge. um, it was like, I'm just gonna start making up shit. Because apparently you can. I'm too busy for that. I haven't done it. But oh geez, we're getting close to
Yeah.
time.
And put your final questions and comments in the comments as we get ready to wrap up in a little bit.
Yeah.
Really good questions today. Zane's keeping us on our toes.
It's like the checking of the underlings. Like, are you still keeping up?
I'm not sure who this was. You're both on it with the explanations today. Thank you.
That's
There's
probably
no Z after it, so I doubt that's Zane. He would have told us.
Hey, Karen.
Oops.
Aw, cute kitty cat.
I go to click one comment off and I click the new comment on by accident.
See, and this
Shannon. I have not seen you in forever. I hope if you come through Cleveland again, please let us know so we can have some coffee or something. But
hey, did you get a hold of Gail and them to see if they wanted to come up?
I have not reached out to them.
Okay.
But
yes. Kathy's one of our local friends, and she leads a path workers group on the first and third Saturdays. So if you're into anything woo-woo, but you don't have family or friends to talk to, you can always come join this. But she and I spent some time talking about the apprenticeship this past Saturday. I'm like, well, it's a smaller group if you guys, because there were a couple that had questions. I'm like, well, I'm sitting here, pick my brain for once I'm not at a show on a Saturday. Go for it. But yeah. And Karen, if you have questions after the rewatch, you know where to find me, how to find me.
yeah.
I will not be for this weekend. I have shows, so message me.
But you're gone again?
Yeah. When I get there today, I have to be ready to pack up. Maybe now add to my list things of like, okay, Hank, let's get some dates going for your clinics before I leave.
Well, I'm going to try to pick it will be this Thursday every month, like third Thursday or something like that, and just try to be consistent with it. Yeah.
What kind of shows? Vending. So I set up a table or tables depending on the size, and I hustle my rocks. So like this weekend, there is a winter market in Sandusky that I will be hustling things at. So
ooh, I might have someone come see you that needs to get me something.
And then
I forgot something at the house in Sandusky, and you're going to be there, so maybe they can just drop off they can drop off what I forgot.
And while we're talking about it, we'll have to plan what we're going to do next Thursday, because depending.
Next Thursday? Oh, you're not here.
Maybe we'll see. I have to double check what time I have to be there and set up, but I'll be in Columbus on Thursday for yet another show.
Well, Lisa, it's funny you should mention it. Have you gone to Peru and done ceremonies there? We're hoping that Zane's going to have a Peru trip next fall, and we'll be limited to 12 people, and we will be going. Zane has taken many groups to Peru and just hasn't really done so since COVID yet. So
yes,
it's coming next fall.
It's Zane's fault that I have a passport.
Yeah. I need to get my passport. But we can think about Thursday if you're not going to be around, and could either do, I don't know, we have some options. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get them. Now, tonight, we're going to do a live stream tonight with some new stuff. So you can always tune in and watch us tonight on all the store channel stuff. And we'll do that and have fun, goof off. That's right, Sean. And Sean, guys, if you're over on our Twitch, Sean's a really good artist, and he's been designing his own tarot. I don't know if he got that done, but I'm like, when that goes up on Kickstarter, I want one. May not say that one out loud because I don't know about terms of agreement because we're broadcasting on like 6 or 7 platforms right now, and there's different terms of service that we're allowed to say and do. So I will be there tonight. Hank probably won't be. It's from 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. So I'll be
Yeah, I
there,
won't be.
Aaron.
Wait, the live stream is 6 to 7. So it's before the store closes tonight?
Yes. Yes. So we're
I
going to
might
start
be
doing
around.
Thursday 6 to 7 just to make it done. Not yet done, but soon. Cool. So, and Chair's a really good artist too. So if you guys are on Twitch, go follow one another. Right. You know, because Hank, neither one of us have been to Peru, but we're a part of the tradition, hoping to go.
Yeah.
Soon.
You know, when Zane first started going, like the shamans, the Karo asked him, like, why are you coming here? Don't you have your own mountains? Don't you have your own shamans and things? And they actually charged Zane with coming back and teaching people to see the sacredness in their own backyard. So like Zane said, I assume that's Zane, that it is not a requirement to go to Peru for this tradition. That is a complete indulgence, truly. Like if you feel called to it, great, but you can do the work with Lake Erie and Fort Hill and Rocky River and wherever you are, you can do all the work with the nature spots in your own backyard, just as well as you could do them in Peru. But Peru gets a lot more tourist attention.
Chair just came up with our old new slogan for our people. Our new slogan,
the Peru Curve. There you go.
If this takes off, we're going to need a some artwork for that.
All right. Well, there is a link to the apprenticeship for next year in the description, and I'll pull. We're going to do this every time now. I'll pull Andy an oracle card for the day.
Yes, earn your keep. Pull a card.
As my final thing. Oh boy, look what we got. Pachacuti. It's one of my favorite words. My favorite word is Puklei. But Pachacuti is your life in a state of upheaval, beloved one. Allow the Pachacuti to inspire you to manage the everyday great change. The prophecies talk about the time of Pachacuti, the overturning of the world to come back to balance. Sound familiar if you look in the news? If you are feeling topsy-turvy, make good medicine out of bad vibes. Shift your perception out of your root chakra into your heart center and look at your situation you're in with the eyes of the heart. Your soul may be calling for change. Discern the higher good one, or discern the higher good, dear one. So there you go. Nice. A little Pachacuti for everybody today.
All right. Well, with that, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Zane, for the questions, keeping us on our toes. I like it. We will be back next Thursday. I have to see what my travel's looking like for that show. It's only 2 hours, so depending on what time it starts, maybe I'll.
And even if you're gone, I do. We might need a new link from Zane, but I have something I have to play that Zane made us for the last time we were going to have one of us not on or weren't going to be on together anyway. Or I'll just do something quick on my own. But
okay.
There will be a stream Thursday. Who is on it was to be determined.
You'll find out when we find out.
Yeah, find out next week when we show up. We're done. All right, everyone. But a link for the program is in the description, and I am here today. I got to sleep till 7 o'clock if you want to come in for a reading or healing or whatnot. And I do it via Zoom too, so you could do it that way.
You know, either that. You know, or maybe if you want to pick one of our brains, Zane, Hank will be there. That you could pick his brain. I'll be there, but honestly, I'll probably be running around packing. So if you want to ask me questions, I might hand you something and say, "Here, follow me," and put that in that box. So, but yeah, stop in if you're local if you have questions. But thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.
Nike Koike. Bye, everybody.